Your title.
Director of Municipal Utilities, City of Auburn.
Okay, so like what is your training? Like what is it that you do?
So I'm a licensed professional engineer in New York State. My background, I went to SUNY ESF in Syracuse, where I received my bachelor's degree in environmental engineering. I went on to work for the private sector for 4 years in Syracuse before coming over to the city of Auburn. Um, for Auburn, initially I worked in the engineering department, working on a lot of their capital projects, their roads. Um, we did a lot of bridges and got into the dam sector as well because Auburn owns and operates a couple of hydroelectric facilities that I was involved with on the redevelopment side of things. Um, and then I got more and more active in the water and wastewater treatment plant capital reinvestment programs. And when the director of municipal utilities left in 2016, there was a vacancy and opening that I applied for, and I've been um, working in that capacity for the last 6 to 7 years, in charge of the water filtration plant, the wastewater treatment plant. We own and operate 2 hydroelectric facilities, and then we have our water distribution system within the city of Auburn, as well as our sewer collection system.
So is your position an elected position or no?
It is not. It's a civil service position. I
Gotcha.
had to take
Okay.
a civil service exam, but I report to the city manager and members of council. So,
Okay, very cool. So it looks like you are thinking it may be a good idea, and correct me if I'm wrong, to upgrade Auburn's sewer system. I mean, which ties into like your formal training. You did environmental engineering, correct? So you're like sort
mhm.
of that's kind of probably how your brain works.
Yep,
So I
yep,
don't know.
absolutely.
Yeah, how did you come up with first things first before we get into the project? What made you think of this and like what sparked this idea about that the wastewater system is
Needed
could
upgrades.
be changed or was a problem or if it is? Yeah.
Sure. Well, a lot of what I do is serve as a conduit for my staff to get them the resources and the tools that my staff needs, or bring forward initiatives that and challenges that they have on an annual basis operating our sewer collection system, our wastewater and our wastewater treatment plant. And one of our biggest challenges at our wastewater treatment plant is our normal flows on a summer sunny day are anywhere between 5 and 7 million gallons of sewage get treated through the wastewater treatment plant. When that changes is during wet weather, and when we have a 2-inch rain event that occurs over the course of, say, a half an hour across the city of Auburn, those flows will go from 5 to 6, maybe 7 MGD up to a 50+ million gallon per flow rate, instantaneous flow rate into the treatment plant. So you can imagine you're an operator working pumps and motors in a system that is treating a normal sunny day flow of 7 or 8 MGD. A rain event happens and that flow almost instantaneously spikes to 50 MGD, and you have to go into emergency overflow treatment operations. It becomes extremely difficult. So part of this project is to eliminate sections of the city where stormwater is connected directly to the sanitary sewer system. And those direct connections will, if they are eliminated, will reduce those peak flows that we see at the wastewater treatment plant where we're actually treating stormwater.
Okay. Um, okay. So you're talking about when there's like a weather event. So if there's a lot of rain, right?
Yep.
And you're talking about specific locations in Auburn where something's connected. What's connected and what does that mean? Something's connected to something and it shouldn't be?
Absolutely. Yep. There's four areas in the city of Auburn where the storm catch basins, if you're walking along the street or driving along the street, the catch basins are the grates, the openings that takes stormwater off the edge of the street,
Yes.
collect it into pipes. And traditionally, those pipes go to some sort of maybe a stormwater treatment facility and then are discharged into the environment out to the river, the streams, and things of that nature, maybe to a pond um, or a wetland or lake. In Auburn's case, there's sections of the city where those catch basins tie directly to the sanitary sewer. And then those sanitary sewer flows down to our treatment plant. So we have direct storm connections. So we get a big rain event and that rain goes into the catch basins, into the sanitary sewer and to our wastewater treatment plant. Many
So
old cities throughout upstate New York have these types of combined sewers.
so why is that like sorry, is that an issue? And if it's an issue, why is it an issue?
The biggest reason is it's an issue is because when you get heavy rains, those flows become extremely difficult to manage at the wastewater treatment plant. And we actually have four combined sewer overflow facilities that activate, and sewer and stormwater are partially treated and then discharged to the river directly. So this project will greatly reduce the frequency and the amount of those types of activations. And it will also provide for additional treatment in a few of those facilities that will continue to maintain and operate. Um, does that help?
So kind of. So I don't know why my brain, either my brain's not working or I'm just not understanding. Not your fault. But so they combine and they're treated and released. It's treated at a treatment plant. So like the stormwater goes into this thing, this hole in the ground, and then it goes at four different locations. It combines with the sewer stuff, right? Like things that you would flush down the toilet. So your rain combines with sewer in four locations.
In four major areas in the city, yeah, they're like multiple blocks.
Okay, so but I'm still not understanding exactly why that's a problem if it's getting treated and released. Isn't that a don't you want it to be treated and released? What's the issue with the stormwater and then the sewer water combining if they're both going to the same place and being treated and released?
Gotcha. Okay, so the part that I did not elaborate on earlier is there's within each one of those areas, those four areas where there's combined sewers, there's also four combined sewer overflow facilities, and they're buildings that are designed to activate during wet weather, and they activate by just a simple flow monitoring. And when the flow gets to a certain elevation or a certain flow rate, it's diverted to these facilities. And these facilities are large swirl concentrators. They're big round tanks that the flow goes into. It swirls around and separates some of the heavy material or the floating material. It then leaves those swirl concentrators and goes right into the river. We're permitted right now by the state to own and operate these CSO facilities, but we don't want them to activate. And this project will eliminate two of those facilities. So two out of the four are going to be removed because we're going to do either full sewer separation or in another area enough sewer separation so that they won't activate. The other two facilities that we're keeping, we're going to install advanced disinfection treatment to them so that if they do activate in the future, they will get a much higher level of treatment so that once they discharge to the river, there'll be no pathogens associated with that discharge and things of that nature. Does that help? I'm sorry.
Totally get it now. So
Okay.
we don't necessarily want the two combining because they need to be treated in different ways, right? Like, so, because you can't
Sure.
just take sewer water, like sewage, and then separate the big particles and just whatever's the liquid, put it into the pond, because you don't, that's basically like not much of a filtration system.
As we progress as a society, we're doing more to, protect the environment and to provide further advancements on treatment. At one point in the 70s and 80s, there were multiple just direct discharges to the river during wet weather events. They would just activate, just be a direct pipe into the river. All of those were eliminated, with the exception of 4 CSO facilities between the 80s and the 90s. And this is just taking it to the next level and do additional removals so that we can get rid of these treatment facilities and get more wastewater to the treatment plant for the best quality treatment that we can ask for, and then minimize the amount of activations in the 2 other facilities we're keeping, and then at the same time provide additional advanced treatment in those facilities too. So when they do activate, we're getting a better, a lower environmental impact associated with them.
Gotcha. Now, why is this type of thing important, and why is this something that people living in the area should be interested in and should want to see this system kind of updated and changed?
Sure. One is each year we develop a flow analysis at our wastewater treatment plant, and this flow analysis tells the state on average what has our average treatment capacity been, and what have we seen over the past year in terms of millions of gallons a day of flow through our treatment plant. That average has continued to increase over the past 5 or 6 years, and that gets to wastewater treatment plant capacity. So we're getting up against the top edge of our treatment plant capacity to treat wastewater. So this project will open up additional capacity for treatment in our wastewater treatment plant, which will help poise Auburn for development and industry to come in, because we'll have the ability to, instead of 500,000 gallons of stormwater going to the treatment plant, we'd rather see on a daily basis 500,000 gallons of treatment capacity for a new business. So that will be something that happens. The other thing is, a lot of these CSO facilities and the areas are in sections of the city that are old. Part of this work will involve putting in all new storm or sanitary sewer lines in those areas that we're doing separation. It will result in brand new streets for our residents in those areas. Because the work is so intrusive, we're between the curb to curb. We'll be digging up and installing new sewer lines, and as part of that, new sewer services that will go to the homes to make sure that they're all connected properly. It's so intrusive that we have to basically repave the entire street. So that'll be another kind of ancillary side benefit to this project. At the end of the day, those areas will see brand new streets.
How is the public receiving this concept? Obviously, I think this is one of the situations where it would be like a temporary, potentially like a temporary, for people living in that area, maybe a temporary inconvenience, but for something that in the long term is beneficial. How are people responding to it?
I think everybody's a little bit different, and how they respond to that. Generally, I find the public, as long as we communicate in advance well in advance of the work that we're going to be doing. We deliver on what we say we're going to do. Um, the public is great to work with, but the messaging will be important when we get to that point. We'll likely be sending letters to all of the affected residents that this will be affecting in their front yard, basically. You start to take the streets of Auburn or use the street in front of you for granted as almost part of your property. Like you take this big pride in that. So we will be certainly disturbing the curb appeal of the properties for, in some cases, a year to a year and a half of disturbance. So they're going to have to be a little patient with us. But at the end of the day, they'll have brand new roads and brand new infrastructure to rely on for another 100 years.
Great. And so in terms of the benefits in their simplest forms, right? Like we know that this is probably better for the waterways because there's not toxins in them. But what else should people be thinking about in terms of the benefits of a project like this?
So, going back to the ability to develop and take on more business in our region, that's a benefit. It's difficult to see directly how that benefits, but treatment plant capacity is certainly something that anybody in the economic development world look at. And we're continually getting questions on whether or not we have capacity in certain areas of the city when certain developers are looking to come into town. Right now, the center spine, we have three major interceptors in the city of Auburn. The North Interceptor, the South Interceptor, and then the Owasco Interceptor. And all of these CSO facilities are on the Owasco Interceptor that runs right through downtown and up to, kind of follows the river, really, is what it does. So we're going to be building up capacity right along the spine of the city of Auburn, where Auburn was first built around. So that's a good benefit. And then certainly brand new streets will be another benefit, and avoidance of issues with our speedies permit. We've had multiple overflows in the past few years. We're aligning ourselves with these projects to be proactive in a way that Auburn and other communities sometimes aren't. Oftentimes folks wait to get a consent order and they're told by the state of New York, thou shalt perform in a certain way because you're in violation of your permit. We see those violate the potential for that to happen here in Auburn. And instead of being told what to do, we're taking the proactive approach to control our own destiny and be proactive. And as such, the states recognize that proactive approach and brought forth some really good funding packages to help support this project. So half of the cost of this project, we're talking about these CSO upgrades and sewer separation projects, are going to be grant funded. The other half of the cost of these projects will be 0% interest loans for the life of the loan. So it's very well supported locally by our council, I'm sure by our residents, and certainly by the state of New York as well.
So where do you stand in the process? Like, is it a go? Are you going to start it, or do you need to do, like, what kind of steps do you need to take to, or does the council need to do to move forward? Like, where are you?
Yep. So I presented to council a couple of weeks ago on this project just to bring it back into their radar. This is something, this isn't new news to Auburn. We've been working on this project for the last 5 or 6 years, building it up in preparation and hope for grant funding to be able to move forward and progress with some financial assistance. We will need to If we want to move forward and accept that grant funding, we will need to bond for the entire value of the contract, the construction estimate. Council would need to approve the bond for the entire project. And the hope would be that we would do that sometime this spring, early summer. And then we need to complete the design of the project. We're currently working with CDM Smith of Syracuse, New York, our design engineers. They're about 75% of the way through the design and get to a construction ready bid package. And then determine where we're at with all of our other capital reinvestment projects and determine when to go out to bid.
Great. And how much does will the project, I guess, cost with the grant in mind?
So it's in the slideshow presentation that I provided you. The total project cost for this project is $22.4 million. Half of which, so the total bond would need to be in that amount, authorizing the city to move forward with the project and receiving the 11.2 million in grant and 11.2 million in 0% loan.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, that makes sense. Anything else I should have asked you that I didn't? Anything else that you'd like to add? Anything else you think people aren't aware of that they should be aware of?
I don't know. I mean, if anybody has any questions or wants more information, you can share my email address. They can reach out to me that way. Visit the city's webpage. Hopefully you'll be posting this presentation as part of your work. A lot of that shows the specific areas that we're going to be working. So if you're curious, am I in this area or not? The maps that were presented on the city council 2 weeks ago and that I provided to you, Rebecca, show those specific locations. And if you're in that area and have questions, reach out to me, SJENSEN@auburnny.gov.